Our Father, who art in heaven, as a body we congregate in this council chambers for the betterment of our fellow citizens. Lead us that we may do all things well. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Present.
Mr. Ray Culverson?
Here.
Mr. Schuldmeyer?
Present.
Mr. Bob Culverson?
Here.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Housfield?
Here.
Let the record show that all 7 members are present. Nobody is absent. Members of council, what is your pleasure on the reading of the minutes of the last meeting?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes from the last council meeting.
I'll second it.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson to dispense with the reading of the last minutes. Are there any remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So orders. Members of council, are there any errors or corrections to the minutes as submitted? Not, the minutes will stand as submitted. We'll move to reports of city officials. Is there a report for the mayor?
Mr. President,
Mr. Paul?
I have the mayor's report.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am sorry that I'm not able to be here this evening, but I will be watching and will be able to communicate by phone if necessary. First off, I would like to thank the St. Bernard Fire Department and the other mutual aid companies who fought the structure fire on Greenlee Avenue this Wednesday. Fred and Manzi are both in my thoughts and prayers after this tragic incident. I am asking for the community for their support to help these 2 men get back on their feet. There is a link on Facebook for the GoFundMe page, and there are several individuals who are collecting items like clothing for them. I would also like to say how proud I am of this community for making a commitment to help those in need during this Thanksgiving holiday. There were 38 boxes and shipping lists that were picked up this past weekend that will be filled and returned so that they can be distributed this Sunday. How awesome. Remember, if you picked up a box, they are to be returned this Sunday between 3 and 5 p.m. at the Aquatic Center, where there will be a drive-through drop-off. Thank you all for your generosity, and thank you to the volunteers who have made this all happen. The exact details of our tree lighting at the City Hall will be announced along with the location of the distribution of the kids' treat bags, but the traditional holiday celebration with a trolley, trains, and petting zoo and pictures with Santa cannot happen this year. I still encourage everyone to participate in the Village Pack Holiday Light Contest, Will Light, for food on Saturday, December the 5th. Those wishing to register their home in the contest may do so by emailing thevillagepack@gmail.com. Entries must be received by Friday, November the 27th by 5 p.m. The Hamilton County Public Health Department has issued a countywide advisory to urge citizens to take precautions to slow the spread of COVID-19. The advisory lists the following actions to help slow the current rapid spread of the virus: staying home whenever possible, observing the governor's curfew order, which begins tonight. Residents are required to stay at home between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. There are exceptions for this: work, medical care, to get supplies, and emergencies. Mask wearing, social distancing, hand hygiene, and staying home when ill. Limiting gatherings, working remotely, observing all quarantine and isolation measures for the exposure. That concludes the mayor's report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Auditor, Ms. Brickwick.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Auditor's Office provided the end of October 2020 revenue, expense, and cash fund spreadsheets to council and the administration. At the end of October, the village has underspent the revenues by $657,403.83. The Auditor's Office prepared Ordinance 33/2020 for tonight's meeting. This ordinance transfers $237,089.38 from the general fund, $200,000 going into general bond retirement cash account, and $37,089.38 going into the CRF Corona-19 Care cash account. It also provides additional appropriations to 2K2 miscellaneous for $15,400. This is a check we received to hold for a damaged firehouse until it met all the inspections, so we cashed it, but put it in the bank, but when they fulfill their agreement, we will have to pay it back. 2010 Parks, $19,550. This is for the Ross Park step repairer. 58-7R, utilities, and actually that is not the correct line item, I don't think so. I'm going to have to look that up and I'll read that back to you. I just realized that's not it. But we need $12,000 to go into utilities, and 20-01, the CARE Corona line item for $3,833.08. It also moves $40,000 from 6A3 police dispatchers into 6A13 police equipment outlay. This will be used to pay for the police body and in-car cameras. I would like to request that council suspend with the regular rules of the meeting after the reading of the resolution and ordinances to open the floor to discuss the 2021 health care expenses. This is a time-sensitive matter that needs to be discussed tonight. Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Director of Law, Ms. Van Valkenburg.
Thank you. I would urge that you pass ordinance number 33, which I believe is on the table tonight, which authorizes the solid waste collection fee for residential accounts for the year of 2021. It is just the fee that we've been charging the past couple of years. There's no increase in it. It's just something that we need to do annually. So I want to get it on the books before January 1st if possible. I think ordinance number 30 is also on the table. I'm sorry, I left my notes back at my desk. But if it is, I would also urge that you pass it. It's just an ordinance approving the editing inclusion of ordinances in as parts of our code and incorporating those into our existing ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer, Mr. Ungrue.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have the First State Bank statement for the 4th of July Memorial Fund that we have down there at the end of October. So October 31st, 2020, our balance in the account totals $5,655.70. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Safety and Service Director, Mr. Poe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Recycling process fees have finally fell below the trash per ton rate at the landfill. Recycling fees is down to $29.86 per ton this month. We were averaging about $40 a ton, so that should lighten up some. I would like to place discussion of a new electric truck on the agenda for the next committee of the whole. And then to my community, I am thinking that we are almost all the way around the sun again. Although this year is fatiguing us, we seem to be managing our way through it. There is still a lot to be thankful for in our lives. Distance does not seem to be a big problem anymore. With our phones and computers, we can dial up and there they are right in front of us. We can still cook, bake, and eat. So this is a bright side, you ask? Yes, because no one will be there to ask, are you having another slice? I am, with 2 scoops on the side. I'll be thinking of you. Happy Thanksgiving. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Tax Commissioner / Administrator, Ms. Helms.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple things tonight we'll go through. First off, the October monthly report. Tax collections for October were $890,225. Tax refunds for October were $9,217. The village is down 1.25% in tax revenue from October of 2019. However, year-to-date tax collection is up 4.53%. $69,629 in delinquent taxes with capital recovery systems. $106,195 in delinquent taxes with our attorney for judgment garnishment collection work. 2019 non-filers. Currently, there are 610 residents who have not filed their 2019 St. Bernard tax return that was due 7/15/2020, and extensions were over 10/15/20. Letters are now going out to remind those people. I want to stress the importance of not ignoring the letter that we send you. Failure to file will result in a summons to court and additional penalties that could be avoided. The ability to file and pay your tax return and quarterly payments online is coming back for 2021. I've been working with the Baldwin Group, our software provider, and Infintech to bring back the ability to file and pay your tax returns online. The new overhauled system will allow you to file your tax returns online and submit your documentation with your filing. Your documents will be stored digitally on your tax account. This improved system helps to prevent fraud, saves paper, and adds convenience to the community. And finally, Resolution 10, 2020 has been placed before Council tonight for approval. This is a resolution to strongly oppose Senate Bill 352 and House Bill 754 legislation proposing the repeal of Section 29 of House Bill 197. The repealing of this section will have dire consequences throughout Ohio's municipalities. It will cause substantial loss of revenue that will impede the ability of municipalities to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of municipal residents and businesses and jeopardize the future economic growth of the state of Ohio. As always, if you have any questions, you can reach my office at 242-7710. Happy Thanksgiving. That concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll move to reports of standing committees. Finance, Mr. Taberky.
No report.
Thank you. Safety, Mr. Ray Culbertson.
Thanks, Mr. President. Got the fire department report for October. There were a total of 64 fire incidents with 7 structure fires and 3 vehicle fires. Mutual aid was given to Norwood 3 times, Elmwood Place 8 times, Little Miami 4 times, and 1 time to Springfield Township. Mutual aid was received once from Elmwood Place, once from Little Miami, once from Springfield Township, once from Norwood, once from Reading, and once from Wyoming. There were a total of 100 EMS incidents. A couple details of interest: there were 6 non-breathers, 3 unconscious, 16 auto accidents, and 1 overdose. EMS mutual aid was given 21 times to Elmwood Place, 2 times to Norwood, 1 time to Deer Park, 3 times to Springfield Township, and mutual aid was received 4 times from Norwood and 1 time from Lockland. And I'd like to wish all the residents a happy Thanksgiving as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Service, Mr. Schultmeyer.
No report.
Thank you. Public improvements, Mr. Bob Culbertson.
No report.
Thank you. Laws, contracts, and claims, Ms. Bettinghouse.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few weeks ago, I had stated that I probably would be having a town hall meeting and making sure that we could have a representing or presenting the non-discrimination ordinance that we've been working on in the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee, and I thought we would do it around the 3rd of December. However, with everything going on with COVID, we are going to be not having that. And after the first of the year, we will decide when there would be a better time in order to get the town hall meeting together. So stay tuned for more after the first of the year.
Thank you. Marketing, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was able to attend the We Thrive meeting, which occurred yesterday. Some updates I would like to make our community aware of. There is a We Thrive St. Bernard Facebook site that is in the works and hopefully will be published in January of 2021. I will keep everyone updated as to the progress of the site. I also want to make sure that the community is aware of some services that our local library branch offers, most of which are free services. I will name a few, and I will publish in the December newsletter more information and a direct link to their site. They offer free faxing and scanning to email, up to 2 hours of computer access, up to 20 pages of free copying and printing, free take-home activities, which are make and take kits, free meal boxes from UMC Food Ministry on Mondays from 3 to 5 p.m. while supplies last. Each box contains 7 meals and 7 snacks. Their hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday for in-person and curbside services. Face coverings are required to enter the library. Also, an update from the Talbert House. There is currently a senior safety squad program, which is facilitated by Talbert House, targeting seniors and their families living here in St. Bernard. You can contact their free helpline, which is available 24/7 through calling 513-281-CARE or texting Talbert to 839-863. This is a wonderful resource to avoid a crisis when families experience depression, anxiety, and grief. Also, do not forget that the Reds Urban Youth Academy Mailbox Pickup is taking place tomorrow, Friday, November 20th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., located at 2026 East Seymour Avenue. You do not need to get out of your vehicle. The flyer for this event has been loaded to the St. Bernard Facebook site. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Business and industry, Ms. Housefeld.
No report, Mr. President, but I did want to wish all the residents a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole, Ms. Kathman?
Committee of the Whole has been emailed to the administration and members of council.
Thank you. Is there any communications this evening?
There are no communications.
Thank you. All right. If not, could you give the first reading of resolution number 10, 2020?
Mr. President,
Mr. Taberky.
first I make a motion to put Resolution 10, Ordinance 33, and Ordinance 35 on the table tonight.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Taberky, second by Ms. Bettinghouse to place resolution number 10, ordinances number 33 and 35, 2020 on the table this evening. Are there any remarks? 34 also?
We did 34 at the committee.
I thought, that's what I saw. too,
Yeah.
so, Okay. Is there any remarks?
Peggy said we had to do the contract ordinance.
All right. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. All right, clerk, can you please give resolution 10 its first reading?
Resolution number 10, 2020, strongly opposing Senate Bill 352 and House Bill 754. Legislation proposing the repeal of sections 29 of 197, which will result in a myriad of unintended consequences through Ohio's entire municipal income tax system. Cause a substantial loss of revenue that will impede the ability of municipalities to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of municipal residents and businesses, and thereby jeopardize the future economic growth of the state of Ohio.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of resolution number 10, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of resolution number 10, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Hausfeld to suspend with the second and third reading of resolution number 10, 2020. Are there any remarks?
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke?
Leanne, in the second whereas, it talks about deals with the coronavirus.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
In the second whereas, it talks about the coronavirus.
Uh-huh.
The House Senate Bill 32 and House Bill 754, that doesn't deal with the coronavirus. That's for permanently changing, correct?
Well, they want to, at this point in time, just do away with the emergency that the governor had implemented at this point in time. You're talking about for future, in the future,
Correct.
making it permanent. That has not been put on
Okay.
the table or addressed yet. This is just to repeal the governor's original order.
Are there any other remarks? Not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to adopt resolution number 10, 2020.
Second it.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culbertson to adopt resolution number 10, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Resolution number 10, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 30, 2020?
Ordinance number 30, 2020. An ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances of St. Bernard, Ohio, revising the traffic and general offenses codes to comply with state law and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 30, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 30, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Hausfeld to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 30, 2020. Are there any remarks? If not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance 30? If not, clerk, will you call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to adopt ordinance number 30, 2020.
Second it.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson to adopt ordinance number 30, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 30, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 32, 2020?
Ordinance number 32, 2020, authorizing the solid waste collection fee for residential accounts for the year of 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 32, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 32, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Housefeld to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 32, 2020. Are there any remarks? If not, clerk, will you please call the roll on the motion?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 32, 2020.
I'll second it.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson to adopt ordinance number 32, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
No.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
No.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
5 ayes, 2 nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 32, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 33, 2020?
Ordinance number 33, 2020, authorizing and directing the auditor to transfer funds, move funds, and provide additional appropriations, and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 33, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 33, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
Motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Housefeld to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 33, 2020. Are there any remarks? If not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance 33? Not, clerk, will you please call the roll on the motion to suspend?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 33, 2020.
I'll second it.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson to adopt ordinance number 33, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Housefeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 33, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 34, 2020?
Ordinance number 34, 2020, an ordinance authorizing the service director to enter into a contract with Gerke Electric Incorporated and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 34, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse?
make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 34, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Housefeld to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 34, 2020. Are there any remarks? If not,
Yeah,
is there,
Mr. President.
Ms. Housefeld?
Just so either Peggy or Tommy can explain a little bit, just for those residents that don't understand how we went out for this bid and how we got this bid and how we're passing this tonight, hopefully.
Mr. President,
Mr. Pohl?
I went out for bids for 2 different companies that deal with the Musco Lighting Company, and they're our local. And we received 2 bids. One was 360-something thousand, and Gerke came in at 302.
Mr. President.
Ms. Housefeld?
Tommy, I didn't get a chance to talk to you beforehand, but I had received a text message from a resident that was complaining about this particular bid and this and that, and I just wanted you to explain it so that I'm sure he's watching, and that way he knows exactly what's going on. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other remarks? If not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council on ordinance 34? Not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 34, 2020.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson, to adopt ordinance number 34, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 34, 2020 is adopted as read. Clerk, will you please give the first reading of ordinance number 35, 2020?
Ordinance number 35, 2020, an ordinance authorizing the police chief to enter into a contract with Lebanon Ford for the purchase of 3 police cruisers and declaring an emergency.
Members of council, you've heard the first reading of ordinance number 35, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 35, 2020.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Ms. Hausfeld, to suspend with the second and third reading of ordinance number 35, 2020. Are there any remarks?
Mr. President.
Mr. Taberky.
Chief, are these going to be 2020s or 2021 models?
2021.
Thank you.
That was 2021 for anyone that missed it. Any other remarks? Not, is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council? Not, clerk, will you please call the roll on suspension?
Mr. DeBerke?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Members of council, what is your pleasure on adoption?
Mr. President,
Ms. Bettinghouse.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 35, 2020.
I'll second that.
A motion by Ms. Bettinghouse, second by Mr. Ray Culberson, to adopt ordinance number 35, 2020. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. DeBerke? Mr. Ray Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Schuldmeyer? Mr. Bob Culberson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mrs. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Ordinance number 35, 2020 is adopted as read.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke.
I make a motion we suspend with the regular order of business. Peggy wants to talk about the healthcare.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. DeBerke, second by Ms. Bettinghouse, to suspend with the regular order of business to discuss the health care. Are there any remarks? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Before I go into all the number crunching, I do want to say a few facts because I think these are a couple questions that might be asked. We are now fully insured, and because we are fully insured, we have no heads up on how we're doing. So we had the meeting with our broker on Tuesday. We had no idea what was coming. We don't have any access to who has what claims. So the numbers I'm about to present to you is probably a surprise to you or a surprise to us. Secondly, I have talked to the mayor about everything that I'm going to present tonight, and he is on board with what I'm going to present, so I just wanted to let you know that. We had a meeting on Tuesday. When the bids came back, apparently they went out, well, let's start at the beginning. United Healthcare came in with a very high quote like a month ago. So all the employees got on and did a form fire, which we were hoping to go out for bids to other carriers. So after we filled that out, they went out to shop us to other carriers. Only one bid on us, and it was $200,000 or a couple $100,000 above even United Healthcare. Everybody else would not even bid on us. So apparently we had a pretty bad year. So the bid came, council appropriates $1,250,000. Well, it's coming in $600,000 over. Yep. So I've been crunching numbers all day long. We're going to have another healthcare committee meeting with the employees tomorrow. I can't guarantee this, but I've come up with enough crunching and raising deductibles, raising and lowering different things where the employees hopefully will be able to take off half of that. So Jonathan has asked me to ask council if they would this year take $300,000 out of the reserves for healthcare. I did want to let you know that basically the only time you've raised the premiums for healthcare, you know, when we weren't self-insured, which when we were self-insured, they were 2 million, 1.9, 1.7. The only time it's been raised by this council above the 1.25 is when we had the carryover or whatever that back. So pretty much it really has not been, it has not been upped for the employees. The employees have been trying to make this work the best we can. And everybody knows insurance goes up and we are willing to do this, but it would be nice if council would actually raise it a little bit too. I can't guarantee this is going to go over really well tomorrow, but I can't even start that discussion with the employees until I hear from you. So I'll open up the floor for any questions you have.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke.
Peggy, back when Mr. Meyer was here, didn't we have $1 million in healthcare, then we bumped up to 1.3?
No. When Mr. Meyer was here, it was going to be 1.6, and he bumped it back. It was 1.6 or 1.7, and he bumped it to I think, okay, maybe $1 million or $1.2 million.
So that was one
Okay.
he budgeted
Okay.
for. I'm just curious.
Okay. But I can, 2012, we spent 1.725, 2013, 1.778, 2014 was a good year, 1.32, 2015, 1.66, 2016, 1.5, 2017, 1.9, 2018, 1.7. So we have done our best to fix this the best we can, and the employees have been putting a lot more of our own money, and as many of the employees would like to say, as a lot of them haven't had a raise in 8 years. So we don't get raises, or I shouldn't say we, 'cause I'm not part of that, but they don't get raises, and then they're going the opposite direction big time, basically, is what I'm saying, on their behalf. 2019 was almost exactly 1.225, but it was a bad year. Now, if I look at different scenarios, I think it will be better next year. I can't guarantee who's going to get sick and not sick. That's what insurance is for. But if I kind of look at different things, I do think it will be a better year, but I can't guarantee that, never can. So, any other questions?
Anyone else? So I guess at this point, what are we looking for? Council's commitment
if council's
verbally?
permission, if they will verbally put 300,000, and I will go meet with the employees tomorrow and see if I can get the other half, because we have to sign the agreement the beginning of December.
Mr. President,
Mr. DeBerke.
Peggy, $300,000 isn't for this year, it's for next year, correct?
Yes, it'll be in the budget for next year, but I
Right.
have to sign the contract
Okay.
with the insurance company.
So I guess at this point, do I have a motion to add $300,000 to next year's,
Or take it out of reserves or whatever, yeah.
whatever needs to be done?
What did we briefly went through what we've done, trying to get the dollars down.
Mhm.
Can you explain that?
We were always self-insured, and we went to fully insured. We went to a high deductible plan. We went to a PPO, which had a much higher deduction. We've raised the premiums. I mean,
I mean, in the shopping, like, so United Healthcare.
we, and then we filled out the form fire where we put in all of our health information. Form fire means I get on as an employee, and I get on and I say what's wrong with me, what all my illnesses are, what all my husband's illnesses are, what all my children's illnesses are. So, well, it not only goes to United Healthcare, it goes out, we went to Humana, Aetna, and a bunch of them. And they, hold on 1 second. If I have that in here. Aetna said, no, thank you. Anthem said, no, thank you. Humana would have raised it $800,000, and Medical Mutual said, no, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. Rob Colberton.
Peggy, dealing with insurance, and again, I'm in the, not the public sector. are there any groups to join to get a better rate, buying power? And then also on the other side of that, how's our insurance relate to other municipalities? You know, is our insurance, you know, bottom of the barrel premium, or have we researched those?
On both ends, the other groups don't want us. We've tried that over and over. We try that every year. And when you compare us to other municipalities, we used to be really good, and now we're not. No, you can, and that's our biggest fear right now. I'm going to be very honest. Other municipalities have much better insurance and insurance rates and higher salaries, especially for the fire and police. So this is scary because we've seen such a influx this year from people leaving. I'm very concerned that this is not going to go, you know, we might be losing even more employees. So, no, we're on the high end of the deductibles and everything like that when you compare it. I mean, I'm sure there's some that are worse, but we are not on the high end at all.
Mr. Schulmer.
Peggy, do we have, this is just what I'm used to too, do we have a broker that we deal with?
Yes.
Do we ever- and who's our broker?
I can never say it right. McGowan Braybender.
And what is their response to all these people that don't even want to support? Why is that?
Because I'm not going to go into people's personal stuff, but we had some very high claims.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's illness.
Our circumstances, it's not.
Yeah, it's our claims were our claims from the previous year were up like 38%. We had some employees and some dependents that were awful sick, but that's what insurance is for. So,
Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Ms. Housfield.
just because I don't have my numbers in front of me, what exactly do we have in our reserves off the top?
well, I put another $1 million in this year. That wasn't in there before. I don't have that with me in front of me. So you look, yeah. But and that's what I'm saying. I did put $1 million in, so because we're doing so well. So you'd already be 700,000 even if you use the 300. I want to say, let him get those numbers because he does the
Mr. President.
investments.
Ms. Housfield.
Silly question, and I don't remember exactly what you told us last week. I know you said we were getting an extra 800.
805,000.
Can any of that be used for healthcare?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. So I'm going to put that into the reserves until they know what they want to use it for.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I'm going to put that in too. So you can say when we take it out, it can be from that or from the other thing, but yeah.
Mr. President,
Mr. Bob Culbertson.
I'm going to switch gears real quick to Leanne. Have we done an analysis to try to understand the potential impact after COVID? If, my big concern is a lot of these big corporations in St. Bernard are allowing their employees to work from home. And, even if, this resolution or bill passes, do we know what the potential impact could potentially be if that bill does pass and St. Bernard, you start paying for work from home?
Well, I've been working with a lot of other cities. I talk with Sharonville quite a bit. We're actually up this year. That's why I've been kind of breaking it down because this has been such a strange year. And I kind of break it down a little differently for you guys, and I'm giving you year to date as it's coming in. So we're actually up 4.5% as of right now, this moment. I haven't seen big fluctuation with anything. I think we've been strong. We've been doing well. Again, this resolution that you passed this evening, the entire state of Ohio is talking about it. I get emails every day. That's on our mind constantly. There's a couple people, pushing this through. The cities have come back so strong against it, how it would devastate not just St. Bernard, but everybody. And the city of Cincinnati's put together a consortium where we're pulling our numbers, and I actually crunched the numbers for Ted Newsman the other day, just to give him an average of what we would lose if that happened. And I came up with between 2.5 and 3.9 million is what we would lose. Again, Cincinnati is going to be much higher, Dayton, all these other cities, Cleveland. It's hard to say. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball look into it. Peggy and I've talked about this. I don't think it's going to go through because there's no way anybody could recover from that. Now, as far as what Don was saying about, in the future, are they going to push toward working from home? I mean, a lot of our base in St. Bernard is manufacturing. Well, that being said, we do have a large company that does something a little different. And we're watching that. I'm in contact with them. You know, I'm trying to stay on top of it. But, you know, Peggy and I have had long conversations about this, and at this moment, you know, we're doing well. I don't know what the future's going to hold, but I'm going to keep you up to date as I find out and as it comes into me.
Mr. President, and my comment to that is, and I don't have a crystal ball, but if anybody here thinks that the city of Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland would allow that to happen or to go through, I can't imagine it. It would bankrupt our 3 major cities in the state of Ohio. So when I use a little bit of common sense, I don't see that passing. Because the ones pushing it are your little smaller ones. It would kill Evendale, Sharonville, you know, and that's just in our area. It's your, I hate to use this because my daughter, but Loveland. They don't have all that, so they would be pushing for it. But I just don't see that. I just think it would just blow up the state of Ohio if that went through.
Mr. President?
No.
If I could add to that, you know, a lot of these people that you know, that are pushing for it and they want the work from home and they want refunds back, need to also realize that, say you know, work in St. Bernard, but you live in Blue Ash and you're getting a refund, but you're working from home in Blue Ash, well, guess what? Blue Ash is going to, you know, ask for that money. So a lot of these people think, oh, I'm going to get this money back. Well, you're probably going to have to pay it back out to another city. Again, it shifts it all over the place. And we're just, you know, city municipalities aren't set up for that. And it has been, that's why I had the resolution put on the table tonight, because we're taking it seriously. We've got a large group looking at this, and I will keep you updated as it happens. Thank you.
All right, I guess we'll go back to, is there a motion to place the $300,000 either out of reserves or
Mr. President,
the other, Mr. Bob Culberson?
real quick, do we get the number in the reserves? No? Okay.
Sorry, I did not, I must have put the report in my folder and took it home.
Okay, that's fine.
Last month it was I want to say it was 3.8, and then she put another million in.
I wouldn't, well, and I was gonna say it's probably gonna be between 4 and 5.
Okay.
And I don't know if he was including my million because it fluctuates, but I'm trying to think about when I put that million in. It was probably a few months ago. He's trying to sign in.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. So you're saying anywhere between 4
I mean,
and 5.
it's often, it might be closer to 4, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
every time I get the chance, I do put the money in there. And I don't, there's not a really graceful way to say this. I understand the money. I understand all that. But the kind of the issue we have here is you have employees, and we have a lot of people like to compare private to public, which is different. But at the same point, if we continue to keep pushing on these employees and pushing them down, you're not gonna have, I mean, they're going to other municipalities. I think we've lost, what, 5 or 6 this year? After we've trained them, did everything for them, and then they leave. So I think there's a certain point where council and the mayor need to figure that out. Else we're gonna continue, because we're very concerned already once we get these cuts or additions, you know, this little bit of both, of the 300,000, we'll probably be losing more employees. I'm gonna be very honest with you. And I know it's easy to sit and say, oh, well, then they can just go find another job somewhere else. And in the normal world, that could be true, but when it comes to especially fire and police, it's really hard to find those people when the other municipalities are paying them more and have better benefits. So I think at some point we need to balance this and figure out, you know, the financially correct thing to do. But at the same point, you know, the taxpayers, the companies, they're paying for these services, and if we can't provide them the services, you know, it's something needs to be fixed with this, and I don't know how you do that, but we need to start looking at that sooner than later before we lose more employees.
Mr. Schumer.
62. Well, it's 62, but that's all the dependents and spouses and everything.
Do you know how many people that is or not?
No, I don't.
But it's 62.
All right.
Mr. President?
Ms. Helms.
I just wanted to add too, I have been aggressively pursuing the delinquent taxes, and we've gone another route this year. Actually, I was downtown in court, Hamilton County Courts, most of the day Tuesday with our attorney pursuing judgments for garnishments on people who have refused to work with the city, refused to work with the payment plan. Again, like I said, there's 610 residents, which is roughly 29% of the residential population here that still haven't filed their 2019 tax return. So there are additional monies out there that we are aggressively, pursuing and getting into compliance that aren't part of the books for this year yet.
And Mr. President, I wanted to add two more things, if that's okay. Part of our problem with having the 62 is we're not big enough. So if you get a couple sick or really sick, or then we're that. And then the other thing is, it's funny, it's like we're going to hire young people. That's great too, but then, needless to say, young people have babies. And babies, it's like, what I tried to explain to everybody the other day, we are a group. Stop trying to split old people, young people, sick people, healthy people. We are a group, and this is the best we can do as a group. But I think, everybody in the past years is like, well, if we hire all young people, it'll just go down a whole lot. Well, that, like I said, I'm going to be honest, my health care bills last year were $400, okay? So I would call me an old person. Where if you have a baby, it might be $20,000. So we just need to look at it as a group. But the problem is, by reducing the employees, we're reducing, it's almost like a no-win situation. If you have more employees, it would cost more, but you might, balance it out a little better. It's just kind of a tough situation to be in at this point. I do see it getting better, but like I said, when people get sick, you just don't know.
Mr. Schulmer.
So, I'm just trying to run through the numbers. So we're paying about $25,000
Yeah.
per employee. What is the employee portion of that? How much do they pay?
I don't even have that right here. Hold on, let me look. Yeah, I don't, yeah.
We're probably at 17 now, and if we're at 1.5, 50, and 300, 62 is 25,000.
I don't know, I don't have that number here. I know, I can tell you we're raising premiums, we're lowering the amount that we put into the HSA, we're lowering the amount in the HRAs, we're changing, paying for prescriptions more money. What else we're doing? I mean, I'm working on $300,000, so.
Mr. President,
Ms.
if
Helm.
if I may add, after I talked to Peggy today, I did a little research myself, and what she was proposing was very much in line with what, with the new proposal she's going to present tomorrow, was in line for premiums for what a lot of people across the country. I think it was roughly, just for the PPO plan, like $400 a month, a little over that, which was pretty average from just the research I did this afternoon.
And before anybody says it, that's public sector, not private, because I know that's coming next.
Mr. Schulmer.
Why is public and private so different?
I have no idea. I mean, I guess my thing is like, well, because usually, I'm going to be honest, private people usually make a lot more money working. You have yeah. If I was out in the private sector right now,
I get it, but why does that make the health insurance more?
well, usually because with the public sector, with it being a firefighter, you're more of a public employee. I mean, I don't know if you guys can help with this, but I mean, just the way it is. I don't know. I didn't. It's kind of like, I don't want to say it's always been that way, but that's just the way it is, because usually your public sectors don't make as much money as the private, so usually the benefits are a little better. And the other thing is with contracts, usually in a contract, which a lot of people sometimes forget, is when you're negotiating a contract, you might say, hey, I don't want to raise, but I would like this benefit instead. Where over here, you might get, am I making sense? I don't.
Yeah, you are. I didn't know if it
Like yeah, so like if,
risk for some reason, or if it's
no,
just
I
the
don't,
way it's been negotiated to this
I think it's negotiations, and like, so say if I wasn't in this job and I was going to do the same job somewhere else, I might make a lot more money, but then I might pay a little more for my insurance, if that, you know what I mean? I think it all kind of balances out in the long run, but I think, I think that's just how it is. And like I said, I know a lot of it's in the contracts because I've heard the employees before, and I don't have a contract.
But that's not unusual for municipalities.
No, because they'll give, they'll say, hey, I'll give this and I'll do that, but like they said before, when they give up all this to get this, and then the year later they go after that. It's just kind of like, thank gosh I'm not in that part of it. But I think if you look on the different websites, like I'm sure she looked at it, that you kind of see that that's just the way it is. And even when we met with the broker, they actually always do that, private sector, public sector. And they break them out and say, now this is what you would have here, this is what you would have here. I don't know the history of it though. Uh-huh.
All right, I'll go back one more time. So, or is there going to be a motion to place $300,000 more into the 2021 budget for the healthcare line item? Mr. Schomeyer.
I'll second.
A motion
I'll
by,
second that.
a motion by Mr. Schultmeyer, second by Ms. Housefeld to add $300,000 to the 2021 budget for healthcare line item. Are there any other remarks? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
Thank you, and I will promise you we're going to continue to work on it. We're not giving up on this one. We're going to keep trying to get it down. And actually, I'm still trying to negotiate another cut. I don't see it coming, but I'm arguing with UHC right now, so we'll see.
All right,
Mr. President,
Mr. Taberky.
Peggy, on the next year's budget, any clue where we're standing at?
I'm sorry. The budget that the
For
mayor's
next-
working on?
Yeah.
No, he's working on it from home. So he did ask me if I could get with him next week. I don't see it being that big of a difference than the summer one. I don't know. It's his budget, so I haven't really seen it since he hasn't been able to come in.
Am I placing that on the committee of the whole then? Next committee of the whole to be discussed? Because we'll have to pass it, okay. All right, we'll go back to the regular order of business. Does anyone on council have anything under old business?
Mr. President,
Mr. Taberky.
make a motion to remove the December 24th council meeting to December 17th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Taberky, second by Mr. Bob Culbertson to move the December council meeting from the 24th of December to the 17th. Any remarks? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Anything else under old business? Does anyone on council have anything under new business? Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address council this evening? No absent members. Okay, so the next committee of the whole will be Thursday, December 10th at 7 p.m. And the following week will be the council meeting on December 17th at 7 p.m. This time I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. President,
Mr. Ray Culbertson.
make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Ray Culbertson, second by Ms. Housefeld to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. We are adjourned.